We have to prepare for all possibilities. We must take care of ourselves.
Canada has just made a historic decision that could redefine its economic future for decades to come. While Donald Trump is threatening to impose 100% tariffs on all of our products, the Carney government has chosen not to back down. On the contrary, Ottawa has just announced a major partnership with China on electric vehicles, a new national automotive strategy, and what is now being called Canada's sovereign path. Is this a stroke of strategic genius or a risky gamble that could cost us our most important trading partner? The numbers released this week are surprising, and what's happening behind the scenes between Ottawa, Washington, and Beijing will astonish you. Stay until the end because I'll reveal what 61% of Canadians really think about this strategy and why the results vary drastically from one province to another. Let's start by understanding the scale of the situation. Donald Trump is not mincing words. In January and February 2026, he repeatedly issued a clear threat on Truth Social and in interviews. If Canada signs a major trade agreement with China, he will impose 100% tariffs on absolutely all Canadian products entering the United States. Let me explain what that actually means. A 100% tariff essentially doubles the price of all our products on the U.S. market overnight. Canadian lumber, aluminum, auto parts, agricultural products, energy, everything would be affected. For an economy like ours, where about 75% of exports go to the United States, this would be the economic equivalent of an earthquake. So why is Trump doing this? According to him, China is taking control of Canada. He even uses the phrase devouring Canada to describe what would happen if Ottawa finalizes a partnership with Beijing. It's aggressive rhetoric that fits into the broader trade war Washington has been waging against China for several years now. And this isn't just empty talk. Trump has already imposed high tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and certain automotive products since 2025. Even though the USMCA still protects a significant portion of our trade, the trend is clear. Washington wants to force Ottawa to choose sides. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of folding under pressure, the Carney government did exactly the opposite. In January 2026, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, Mark Carney unveiled what he calls the new sovereign path. It represents a complete paradigm shift in how Canada sees its place in the global economy. The core idea? Reducing our economic vulnerability to unilateral decisions made in Washington. Carney was blunt. He stated that economic ties between Canada and the United States have become vulnerable to American political whims. He spoke about the end of the rules-based international order, the system that has governed global trade since the end of World War II. And in his view, middle powers like Canada must now assert themselves and diversify their strategic partners. Make no mistake, this is not an anti-American turn. Carney insists that Canada maintains its alliances and its values, particularly on human rights. But Ottawa now refuses to remain at the mercy of a single trading partner, no matter how important that partner may be. This is an economic declaration of independence that wouldn't have been thinkable just 5 years ago. And this strategy isn't just theoretical, it's taking concrete shape immediately, with a partnership that's generating a lot of buzz. January 2026, Canada announces a strategic partnership with China focused on the automotive industry and electric vehicles. But let's be clear right away, this is not a comprehensive free trade agreement with Beijing. It's far more targeted and strategic than that. Here's what the agreement actually includes. First, a massive reduction in tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. Tariffs drop from 100% to just 6.1%. But only for a limited quota. We're talking about 49,000 units per year initially, with a gradual increase to around 70,000 units over 5 years. Second, incentives for Chinese investment in Canada through joint ventures to produce electric vehicles locally. The goal here is clear: create Canadian jobs and develop domestic expertise in EV manufacturing. Third, and this is crucial, imported Chinese electric vehicles will not be eligible for Canadian government incentives. No government rebates on these imports. This is a way to partially protect the local industry. Canada is walking a tightrope. On one hand, the government is opening the door to affordable Chinese technology to accelerate EV adoption. On the other, it's trying to protect jobs in the automotive sector, which are primarily concentrated in Ontario and Quebec. But do Canadians really support this risky strategy? The numbers are in, and they're surprising. A Leger poll conducted in early February 2026 reveals fascinating results. 61% of Canadians support importing more Chinese electric vehicles, despite the obvious risk of American retaliation. Digging deeper, 24% strongly support the move, while 38% support it somewhat. But the results vary dramatically by region. In Quebec, support jumps to 72%. That's massive. Quebecers appear particularly favorable towards diversification towards China. This may be linked to automotive sector jobs in the province and a long-standing wariness of American economic dominance. Support is also higher among men and among those aged 55 and older, two interesting demographics that suggest economically established Canadians are the ones seeing the long-term benefits of this strategy. And here's a figure that's even more revealing. About 70% of respondents were already aware of the agreement at the time of the poll. That means this issue is truly capturing Canadians' attention. It's not some obscure policy no one's talking about. People are following this story because they understand that the country's economic future is at stake. But the Carney government didn't stop there. This week, another major announcement completed the strategy. In early February 2026, Ottawa unveiled a complete overhaul of its national automotive policy. This new strategy replaces previous mandates, including the EV availability standard, which imposed increasing EV quotas on automakers. The government is abandoning direct quota requirements in favor of much stricter energy efficiency and greenhouse gas emission standards for the 2027-2032 model years. Why the change? According to Ottawa, this approach gives the industry more flexibility while maintaining climate ambitions. It's a direct response to disruptions caused by the U.S. tariffs and growing Chinese competition. The targets remain ambitious: 75% of vehicle sales electric by 2035 and 90% by 2040. So how does the government plan to get there? First lever, billions of incentives and tax credits for investments in electric vehicle production in Canada. This is real money aimed at convincing automakers to build or expand factories here. Second lever, a new rebate initiative called the EV Affordability Program, with a $2.3 billion budget for 2026 to 2030. The goal, make electric vehicles affordable for Canada's middle class. Third lever, accelerating the rollout of charging infrastructure across the country, because no matter how many EVs you sell, adoption will remain slow if people can't recharge them easily. This strategy aims to position Canada as a global leader in next-generation electric vehicle production, not just an importer, but a producer and innovator. That's especially important for Ontario and Quebec, where the automotive industry accounts for tens of thousands of direct and indirect jobs. So, will it all work? Let's recap what's really happening. Canada is at a historic crossroads. On one side, our largest trading partner is threatening devastating tariffs if we open our doors to China. On the other, the Carney government is betting that economic diversification and the assertion of sovereignty are the only viable long-term path. The new sovereign path isn't just a political slogan. It's a fundamental reorientation of Canada's economic strategy after decades of near total dependence on the United States. The EV partnership with China, the new automotive strategy, the billions invested in local production, all of it is part of a coherent plan to reduce vulnerability and seize opportunities in the global green economy. The risks are real. If Trump follows through on his threats, the short-term economic consequences would be severe. But the status quo, remaining fully dependent on an unpredictable partner, also carries its own risks. Canadians seem largely on board with this approach, especially in Quebec, where support exceeds 70%. But tensions with Washington remain at their highest level in decades. One thing is certain, the coming months will be decisive for Canada's economic future. We are living through a pivotal moment that will likely be studied in economics and international relations courses for years to come. So, the question now is, as a Canadian, do you support this strategy?
Do you think Carney is making the right bet, or is he playing with fire? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if this analysis was useful, don't forget to subscribe to stay informed on Canadian economic news. See you very soon as we continue to follow the evolution of this story, which is only just beginning.